You are seated at a small oak desk beneath the eaves of a stone farmhouse in Lincolnshire. The ceiling slopes low above you, close enough that you could reach up and touch the rough plaster if you lifted your arm. You do not lift your arm. Your hand rests on the desk, fingers curled loosely near the base of a tallow candle. The flame is small, steady, the colour of butter. It carves a circle of light, perhaps 2 feet wide, no more. Beyond that circle, the room dissolves into gradations of darkness. The far corner where the ceiling meets the wall, the edge of the narrow bed frame, the shape of a wooden chest, all of it present but softened, held just outside the candle's reach. The desk itself is scarred oak, pale where the grain catches the light, darker in the shallow grooves worn by years of use before you ever sat here. There are ink stains near the right edge, old ones black and permanent. A few sheets of paper lie stacked unevenly in front of you, their edges crisp and white where the candlelight falls. One sheet sits directly before you, blank, waiting. You can see the faint texture of the paper, the way the surface holds the light. Your spine curves forward slightly, shoulders drawn in. The wooden chair presses against the backs of your thighs, solid and unyielding. You have been sitting long enough that the pressure is familiar, not yet uncomfortable. The air in the room is warm, still. It carries the faint sweetness of tallow as the candle burns, and beneath that, the dry scent of old wood and plaster. Through the open window to your left comes something cooler, the smell of cut fields and orchard grass. You do not turn toward the window. The night beyond it is black, unbroken, no moon tonight. The candle flame does not waver. There is no draught, no movement in the room. Your right hand rests palm down on the desk. You can feel the grain of the wood under your fingertips, smooth in some places, rough where the surface has splintered with age. Your left hand lies in your lap. The room holds you. The sloped ceiling, the circle of light, the waiting paper. You are here and nowhere else. Your fingers close around the shaft of the quill. It is light, almost weightless, a goose feather stripped and sharpened to a fine point. The barrel is pale, smoothed by use, slightly warm from your hand. You lift it from the desk and dip the nib into the inkwell, a small ceramic pot at the edge of the candlelight. The ink is black, thick, iron gall mixed weeks ago and still good. You can hear the faint sound as the nib breaks the surface, a tiny wet whisper. The quill drinks. You lift it, and the excess drips back, one dark bead falling into the well. You bring the nib to the paper. The first stroke is a curve, gentle, deliberate. The sound is there immediately, a soft scratch as the metal point catches the fibres of the rag paper. It is not harsh. It is the sound of something being made. You draw the curve down and around, forming the loop of an integral symbol, though no one calls it that yet. The ink flows dark and wet behind the nib, pooling slightly in the wider parts of the stroke. You can hear it, the faint liquid sound as the ink settles into the paper's weave. Your wrist pivots, another mark, a letter, an X with a long descending tail. The scratch continues, regular, rhythmic. The nib moves and the paper receives it. There is a small resistance each time, the friction of metal on fibre, not smooth like glass, textured, present. You dip again. The ink has begun to thin on the page, the last few marks lighter than the first. The nib drinks again, and you return to the line you are building. A fraction bar, a subscript, The notation is your own invention, symbols that mean nothing to anyone but you. The scratch of the quill fills the small space between your hand and the candle. It is the only sound you are aware of now, not constant but pulsing with the rhythm of the work. Mark, pause, dip, mark. The chair creaks softly as you shift your weight forward, leaning closer to see the curve of a letter. The wood complains, a low sound from the joint where the seat meets the leg. You do not stop writing. Your spine curves more deeply. The quill moves. Another line. Another symbol. The ink is warm on the page. You can almost feel it drying as you write, darkening from wet to matte black. The scratch goes on. Your hand knows this motion, has known it for hours already tonight, will know it for hours still to come. The quill dips, the nib touches paper, the sound returns. The page before you is a lattice of ink, symbols arranged in careful rows, one beneath the other, descending like steps. You have filled 3 sheets already tonight, and this is the 4th. The curve you are studying arches across the upper margin, a parabola sketched freehand, its path smooth and certain. Beneath it, you have drawn a series of vertical lines, each one slicing the curve into segments, thin as thread. You have labelled them with letters, X and Y and O, the variables shifting as you move along the arc. The problem is this: to find the rate at which the curve climbs at any given point, not the slope of a straight line, which is fixed, but the slope of something that bends, something that changes moment to moment. You have been circling this question for weeks. The candlelight flickers slightly, and the ink seems to shift. You blink. Focus again. The method you are building requires the segments to shrink, to become smaller than any measurable distance, not 0, because division by 0 is meaningless, but vanishingly small, approaching 0 without ever arriving. You write the ratio carefully, the change in height over the change in distance, and then you let the distance collapse. The symbols rearrange themselves. Terms cancel. What remains is simpler than what you began with. A single expression, clean and exact. The slope of the curve at that instant. You set the quill down, ink pooling briefly at the nib before it dries. The candle flame steadies. Outside, nothing moves. No wind, no sound, but the faint creak of the floorboards beneath your chair. You look at the line you have just written, the final form of the calculation, and you see that it will work for any curve, not just this one, any shape that bends, any motion that changes. You could map the arc of a stone thrown into the air, the speed of a falling apple, the orbit of a planet, all of it reducible to ratios that shrink toward nothing and leave behind their truth. No one has asked you to do this. There is no examination, no tutor waiting for your proof. Cambridge is closed, the plague still moving through the cities, and you are here, in a farmhouse that smells of wool and old wood, filling pages with mathematics that has no name yet. You have begun to call it the method of fluxions, the study of things that flow, time, motion, change, rendered as marks on paper. You trace your finger along the curve, follow the tangent line you have drawn, the straight edge that just touches the arc at a single point, neither crossing nor pulling away, resting there, perfectly aligned. The ink has bled slightly through the thin paper. You can see the ghost of the diagram on the reverse side, a shadow of the calculation. You turn the page over, hold it up to the candle. The light passes through, illuminating the curve from behind, and for a moment it seems to float, suspended in the flame's glow, neither fixed nor falling, just there, waiting to be understood. Your eyes lift. The page falls away, and you see the window ledge. The prism rests there, a triangle of glass no larger than your palm, its edges sharp and clean. You set it there this afternoon after the light failed, placed it beside the wooden box that holds the lenses you have been grinding. The moon is thin tonight, a sliver low in the sky, but enough to catch one faceted edge, a faint gleam along the glass. You remember the weight of it this afternoon when the sun was still high. You held it in your hand, felt the coolness of it against your palm. Solid, dense, heavier than it looks. The glass is not perfectly clear. There are tiny bubbles trapped inside, imperfections from the making, but the angles are true. You check them with calipers, 60 degrees at the apex. The surface is smooth except where your fingers touched it. You can see the smudges even now in the low light, the faint grease of skin oil. You meant to wipe them away but did not. The box beside it is plain wood, oak, dark with age. You made it yourself last month, planed the sides, fitted the joints. Inside are 3 lenses, each one ground by hand on the wheel in the barn. Your knuckles still ache from the work, the repetitive circling motion pressing the glass blank against the rotating iron tool, water and fine grit between them, hour after hour until the curve is right. Your right hand is worse than your left, the knuckles stiff when you flex them, a dull throb that has not faded. You worked on the smallest lens for 2 days, checking the radius with a brass gauge, grinding away fractions of thickness, testing it against the light. The prism was easier. You bought it from a lens grinder in Cambridge before the college closed, before the plague came. You carried it back wrapped in cloth, careful not to chip the edges. You have used it only twice, both times in daylight, holding it in the beam that comes through the south window in the afternoon, watching the light split, white becoming red, and orange and yellow and green and blue and violet, a fan of colours spreading across the wall, 6 distinct bands, 7 if you count the deep purple at the edge. Descartes said light bends when it passes through glass, that the colours are modifications of white light, impurities introduced by the medium, but you are not certain. The spectrum was too clean, too ordered, the colours always in the same sequence, never mixed, never reversed. You have wondered if white light is not simple but composite, a mixture that the prism separates rather than corrupts. It is only a thought, an intuition you have not yet tested properly. Tomorrow, if the sun is strong, you will try again. Set the prism on the table. Close the shutters except for a narrow gap. Let a single beam pass through. See if you can recombine the colours. Pass them through a second prism inverted. Return them to white. Prove they were there all along, hidden inside what seemed pure. The glass catches the moonlight again, just a thin line of brightness, gone when a cloud passes. The box sits closed, the lenses inside wrapped in linen. Waiting, your hand rests on the edge of the desk, knuckles pressed against the wood, feeling the ache. You do not move. The papers lie scattered before you, but your gaze stays on the window, on the prism. on the question of light, waiting for morning. You hear them before you see them. A soft ticking against glass, irregular, insistent, like rain that has not yet decided to fall. Your eyes shift from the page, the equations blur, and you find the sound. 2 moths, pale, almost white in the candlelight, circling the glass chimney you placed around the flame. Their wings brush the surface, a delicate percussion. Tick, 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 tick. Never quite rhythm, never quite random. One is larger than the other, its wings broader, the colour of parchment left too long in sun. The smaller one moves faster, erratic, its path a tight spiral that breaks and reforms. You watch them, the quill still in your hand, ink drying on the nib. They do not fly straight, no moth ever does. Their courses are curves, swooping arcs that bend toward the light and pull away again, never touching the flame, but never leaving its sphere. The larger moth climbs, follows the convex curve of the glass, reaches the top where the chimney narrows, and drops, falls in a loose spiral back to the base, begins again. The smaller one has found a pattern. 3 tight circles low around the glass, then a dart upward, a moment hovering near the top, then down. 3 circles, dart, hover, repeating. You set the quill down slowly, careful not to disturb the air. The sound continues, that soft ticking, wings on glass, and beneath it, barely audible, the hiss of the candle burning, the wick consuming itself, wax melting down the sides in slow rivulets. The flame does not flicker. The chimney protects it, a steady vertical tear of light, and the moths are bound to it. You have read that moths mistake candles for the moon, that they navigate by celestial bodies, by light so distant it gives them parallel rays to fly against. A candle is too close. The rays diverge from a central point, and the moth, trying to keep the light at a constant angle to its path, must fly a curve, a spiral, tightening, until it meets the flame. But you placed the chimney, and they cannot reach it. So they circle, endlessly, trapped not by glass but by geometry, by the mathematics of their own instinct. The larger moth pauses, clings to the glass with legs too thin to see. Its wings are still, and you notice the patterns on them. Faint lines, darker bands near the edges, symmetrical. The smaller one does not stop. 3 circles, dart, hover, precise as clockwork. You think of the moon, the way it moves around the earth. Kepler said the planets move in ellipses, curves with 2 centers, not the perfect circles the ancients wanted. And the moon, it must be held by something, some force pulling it toward the earth, otherwise it would fly straight out into the darkness, continue forever in a line, but it curves. It falls perpetually around the earth, never escaping, never colliding, held in an orbit by what? The same force that pulls the apple, must it not? The same force, extended, thinned by distance, but never absent. The moth spirals, tick-tick. The candle hisses. Your hand moves without thinking, reaches for a blank margin on the nearest page. You begin to sketch a circle, a point at the center, lines radiating outward. The moths continue, their paths bending, pulled toward the light, falling around it, caught in the curve they cannot escape. The flame burns, steady, patient. The sound fills the room now, the ticking, the hiss, the faint creak of a floorboard below as the house settles, cooling, contracting. Your quill scratches, gentle, adding arcs to the diagram, spirals, the mathematics of orbit, of bodies bound to a centre. The moths do not rest. The candle does not dim. You do not look away. You hear nothing from below. The house has given itself to sleep hours ago. Your mother in her chamber at the far end of the hall, the servants in their rooms above the kitchen, all of them gone into that country you have not visited tonight, will not visit. The floorboards beneath your feet are cool now. The warmth of the day long bled out through stone walls 2 feet thick. You feel it through your stockings, that faint chill rising, creeping up through the soles of your feet, into your ankles. You shift your weight. The chair creaks, a sound too loud in this silence, and you go still again, listening. Nothing. No footstep, no door, no cough from a distant room. Only your own breathing, shallow, barely there, and the faint hiss of the candle beside you. The moths have gone, or you have stopped noticing them. Your shoulders are heavy. You feel the weight of them, the way they have drawn forward over the hours, curving your spine into a question mark above the desk. You try to straighten. The muscles resist. A dull ache spreads between your shoulder blades, familiar, always there by this hour. You let yourself curve again. It is easier. Your spine knows this shape now, has learned it night after night. This hunching toward the page, toward the problems that will not let you go. You breathe in, slow. The air is warm still, carries the faint smell of candle wax, of ink, of old paper. You breathe out, slower. Feel your ribs settle. Your chest hollow slightly. The heaviness spreads down through your arms, into your hands. Your fingers rest on the desk, motionless, the quill between them forgotten. You blink, long. Your eyelids are weighted. They close and take a moment to open again. Downstairs, the kitchen is dark. You know this without seeing it. The hearth where the servants built the fire this morning is cold now, or nearly. Perhaps a few embers still glow beneath the ash, giving no light, only heat, dying slowly into stone. The pots hang on their hooks, the table is scrubbed clean, the floor swept, everything in its place, waiting for morning, waiting for hands to return and wake it. You are above all of that, in this small room with its slanted ceiling, its single window open to the night. The darkness outside is complete. No moon tonight, no stars visible through the apple trees. Only the candle makes a world. This desk, these papers, the circle of yellow light that ends a few feet from where you sit. Beyond that, nothing. You could be anywhere, in any house, in any century. There is no Cambridge here, no plague, no tutors, no disputation, no one to tell you what to read or what to prove. Only this, the scratch of quill on paper, the problems you have set yourself, the questions no one asked. You are the only mind awake for miles, perhaps. The village is dark, the farms are dark. Your mother sleeps, her breathing deep, and even in her room. You imagine it, without meaning to. That rhythm, slow, peaceful, the way sleep takes a body and gentles it. You haven't felt that in hours. Your own breathing is different, shorter, shallower. The breath of someone still working, still holding themselves upright against the pull downward. You feel it now, that pull in your shoulders, in your spine, in the heaviness behind your eyes. The house holds you, silent, patient. It does not ask you to stop. It simply waits. The candle burns, the flame perfectly still. You blink again, longer this time, and the room is still there when you open your eyes. The papers, the diagrams, the equations half finished. You do not move. The silence is total now. Even the hiss of the candle seems distant. A sound from another room, another house. You are alone, deeply alone, and it is not loneliness. It is something else. A space you have made, a pocket carved out of the sleeping world where only you exist, where the problems are yours, where no one can follow. The heaviness grows, spreads, becomes the room itself. You sit in it, breathe it, let it settle over you like dust. The house below does not stir. The night does not end. You remain. The window is open. You had forgotten that. Or you stopped noticing hours ago when the air was still warm with afternoon. Now, the night has changed it. The heat of the day has lifted, bled away into the sky, and what comes through the window now is different, cooler, moving. Not wind, but the faint stirring that happens when the earth begins to cool and the air shifts to fill the spaces left behind. You feel it on your face, on the back of your neck where your collar has come loose, a touch so light it might be imagined, but it is there. You breathe it in, slow, and the scent of the orchard comes with it. The apples are nearly ripe. You know this without seeing them. August apples, small and hard-fleshed, not the sweet winter fruit, but something sharper, green still beneath the red. The smell is thick, almost sweet. The way fruit smells when there is too much of it, when the branches hang heavy and the ground beneath is scattered with windfalls already browning, fermenting slightly in the grass. You smell that too, the grass itself, dry, scorched pale by weeks without rain, the stems brittle, crackling underfoot when you walk through the orchard in daylight, which you have not done in days, maybe longer. The scent of it drifts up the slope, through the window, settles in the room like another presence. You do not move, but you are aware of it now. The world outside this candlelit circle, still there, still happening in its slow, vegetable way. The sheep are out there. You cannot see them, but you know where they are. In the lower pasture, beyond the stone wall, bedded down in the grass, their wool thick with lanolin and dust. You smell that too, faintly, the particular smell of sheep in late summer, wool and manure, and the dry mineral scent of their hooves on sun-baked earth. It is not unpleasant. It is the smell of this place, of Woolsthorpe, of the fields your mother tends and rents and worries over, the animals that pay for the house, for the candles you burn through the night, for the few books you brought back from Cambridge. You do not think of this often, but the smell reminds you, pulls you back into the world of wool and apples and rent, the world that continues whether you think of it or not. The orchard is dark. You cannot see the trees, but you know their shape, the way they stand in their rows, gnarled and low, branches trained along wires. The method here is old, older than you, older than your mother. The trees were here when you were born in this house, in the downstairs room where your mother still sleeps. They will be here when you're gone, when all of this, the papers, the diagrams, the questions you cannot answer, when all of it is forgotten or proven or buried. The trees will still drop their fruit in August, still stand bare in winter, indifferent, patient. You breathe in again. The smell is thicker now, or you are simply more aware of it. The sweetness of fruit, the dryness of grass, a thread of something else, stone dust perhaps, the lime mortar that holds the walls, damp now with night air, or the faint iron smell of the well water your mother draws each morning, all of it drifting through the window, filling the room, mixing with the smell of candle wax and ink and old paper. The night air moves across your skin, across the papers on the desk. One of them lifts slightly at the corner, settles again. You watch it, without thinking. The flame bends, recovers, burns straight again. Outside the orchard stands in darkness, the apples hanging heavy, the grass dry beneath them, the sheep breathing slow in their sleep. The world goes on, turning through its hours, asking nothing of you, offering nothing, simply there. The scent drifts, fades, returns. You sit in it, breathe it, let it fill your lungs, and then you breathe out, slow, and turn your eyes back to the page. You turn back through the pages, not searching for anything particular, but your hand moves as if it knows. 3 pages, 4, the paper whispering as it folds back. And there it is, a diagram you drew days ago, maybe a week. You cannot remember exactly when. The circles are there, concentric, perfectly drawn with compass and straight edge. The orbits, you had labelled them in Latin, the old terminology, though already you mistrust it. Already you sense that the language is wrong for what you are trying to see. The moon's path, the inner circle, and around it the notations you made in the margin. Equations, half-formed, ratios, the period of orbit against the radius, numbers that should resolve into something clean, something that closes, but they do not quite. You stare at your own handwriting, and it looks strange now, as if someone else wrote it. The numerals are cramped, smaller than you usually make them, pressed together as if you were running out of space or time. The ink is darker in some places, where you went over the figures twice, checking, correcting. The arrows you drew, thin, careful lines radiating from the centre, indicating forces, though you had no name for them then. You have no name for them now, only the sense that something must be there, something pulling, holding. You trace one of the arrows with your eyes. It points inward, toward the centre of the circles, toward the place where the earth would be if this were drawn to scale, which it is not. The arrow is straight, confident, as if you knew what you meant when you drew it, but looking at it now you are less certain. What pulls the moon? You wrote that in the margin, the letters even smaller than the numbers, almost illegible. A question you asked yourself and did not answer. The page is scattered with them, these fragments, half-thoughts. What holds it in its path? Why does it not fly away? Why does it not fall? You remember the apple, not the one from the story you will never tell, but the real one. The windfall you saw yesterday, or the day before, lying in the grass beneath the tree. You had stood there, looking at it, a small thing, already browning where it had struck the ground, and you had thought, why down? Why always down? The same question you're asking now about the moon, but inverted. The apple falls, the moon does not, or does it? You stare at the diagram, the circles, the perfect mathematics of curves that close upon themselves, return to where they began. Is that falling? A fall that never ends, that curves back endlessly. The thought is there, but you cannot hold it, not yet, not in language, only in the sense of something almost visible, almost graspable. The force that draws the apple downward. You look at the words you wrote. Downward, such a small word, such a human word, as if down meant something to the apple, as if the earth cared which direction its fruit fell. But there is a pull. You know this. You feel it in your own body, the weight of your hand on the desk, the heaviness in your shoulders after hours bent over these pages. What if that same pull, you stop, the quill is still in your hand. You had not realized you were holding it. The thought dissolves before you can write it, but it leaves something behind, a shape, a question without words. The moon and the apple, the same force, the same mathematics. You look at the circles again, the orbits, and now they seem less like geometry, less like the perfect forms you were taught at Cambridge, and more like something else, paths worn by falling endlessly. The arrows point inward, the moon curves, the apple drops, both pulled, both falling. You do not write this down, you sit with it, let it turn in your mind, unfinished, unanswered. The candle flame wavers, steadies, burns on. Your eyes ache, the numerals blur slightly. Come back into focus. The page is covered with your own hand, your own thoughts from days ago, and they look like relics now, evidence of someone who is trying to see, who is still trying. The question remains, scratched in faint ink at the margin. What holds it? What pulls? The night air moves through the window, cool against your neck. You breathe, slow. The scent of apples drifting in, and somewhere beneath that, the pull of the earth itself, invisible, patient, the same force that brought the fruit down, that keeps you in your chair, that holds the moon in its endless curve. You cannot prove it, not tonight, maybe not ever, but you feel it there, waiting, a truth without language. The diagram lies open before you, the circles, the arrows, the cramped, desperate numerals, all of it asking, and none of it answering. You let your eyes rest on the page, not reading now, just looking, the way you might look at the night sky, searching for a pattern, a law, something that holds. The candle has burned lower. You notice this without deciding to look, the way you notice your own breathing when the room grows quiet enough. The flame is smaller now, not dramatically, not suddenly, but in the way things diminish when you are not watching them, when your attention is elsewhere. The brass holder sits at the edge of the desk, where you placed it hours ago, when the night was younger, when the tallow was smooth and level at the rim. Now there is a pool, liquid and golden, trembling slightly when you shift your weight. When the floorboards settle, the wick stands in the centre, a thin black line, shorter than it was, charred at the tip where the flame consumes it. The light it gives is softer, gentler, as if the candle itself is growing tired. The papers nearest the flame are still visible, the ink dark against the pale surface, but the edges of the desk have fallen into deeper shadow. The grain of the wood, the scratches and stains you know are there, they have faded, become suggestions rather than certainties. Your own hands, you see them clearly, where they rest near the candlelight, the fingers ink-stained, the knuckles slightly reddened from the night air. But your wrists, your forearms, they dissolve into dimness, as if you are only partly present, only partly here. The flame itself has changed colour, or perhaps you are only now noticing what was always true. It is not the bright yellow it was earlier, when you first lit it, when the sun had just set and the room was still holding the warmth of day. Now it is deeper, more amber, with a trace of orange at its base where it meets the wick. The light it casts is warmer, mellower, the kind of light that asks nothing, that simply continues. The shadows on the wall behind you have lengthened. You cannot see them, but you know they are there. The way the room feels different, the way the space seems larger in some directions and smaller in others, the familiar objects, the stack of books on the shelf, the prism wrapped in cloth on the windowsill, they have retreated, become part of the general darkness, still there, still solid, but no longer insisting on their presence. A thin ribbon of smoke rises from the flame. You watch it climb, slow and undulating, curling as it meets some current of air you cannot feel. It rises toward the ceiling, toward the rough beams overhead, and disappears, becomes part of the darkness above. The smoke smells faintly of tallow, of sheep, of the rendered fat that feeds the flame. It is not unpleasant, just present, a reminder of what burns, what is consumed. The pool of liquid wax has spread almost to the edge of the holder, a perfect circle, trembling with its own small tide. When you breathe, when the air moves, the surface ripples, catches the light, reflects it. Back in miniature, the flame sways just slightly, and the whole room sways with it, the shadows shifting, the light contracting and expanding, a gentle pulse. You realize you have been sitting here long enough for the candle to burn through half its length, long enough for the night to deepen around you, for the world outside to settle into its darkest hours. The sheep are silent now, no distant bleating. The moths that circled earlier have gone or died, or simply moved on. The apple trees stand in the darkness beyond the window. You cannot see them, but you know they are there, heavy with fruit, waiting for morning. The flame grows smaller, not rapidly, not in any way that demands attention, just steadily. Inevitably, the way all things diminish, the way all light eventually fails. You do not reach for a new candle, not yet. You sit with this one, with its patient burning, its slow subtraction. The wick shortens, the wax melts, the light contracts, and the night presses closer, softer, more present. Time has become visible here, not as something counted, not as hours or minutes, but as this, the shrinking of flame, the widening of shadow, the gentle fact that even this will end, that the body will need rest, that the work will still be here when morning comes. The candle burns, the light holds, the flame continues its quiet consumption, and you sit within its diminishing circle, still, patient, letting it show you what time is, what waiting means. The golden nimbus around the wick grows narrower, the darkness grows fuller, and somewhere in the gradual change, in the slow transition from light to less light, you feel the night opening, deepening, calling you toward sleep, toward the rest that waits beyond this last hour, beyond this small flame. The candle burns lower, the room grows dimmer, and you remain present, watching as the light slowly, gently gives way. You set the quill down in its pewter rest, the metal cool against your fingertips as you release it, and your right hand lies palm down on the desk, fingers uncurling slowly, like something held too long, finally permitted to open. The grain of the oak runs beneath your palm. Parallel lines you can feel but not see, rough in places where the wood has aged, smoother where your hand has rested night after night, worn by the friction of work, of waiting. The coolness of it surprises you, how the wood has remained untouched by the warmth of your body, how it holds the temperature of the room, the night, something solid and unchanging while everything else has been fluid. The stiffness in your fingers makes itself known. Not pain exactly, but a kind of awareness, a gentle insistence that they have been curved around the quill for hours, that they have held that shape so long, the muscles have forgotten how to soften. You flex them slightly, just enough to feel the resistance, the way the tendons pull across the knuckles, the small creaking sensation deep in the joints. The ink stains are visible in the low light, black marks on pale skin, mapping where the quill leaked, where your hand dragged across wet calculations. They will fade in a few days, but for now, they are proof, evidence of hours spent, of work done. Your palm presses more firmly against the desk, feeling the whole surface of your hand make contact. The lifeline, the base of the thumb, the outer edge where the small finger begins, all of it resting, bearing no weight but its own, accepting the support the wood offers. There is a slight tremor, barely perceptible, a fine vibration in the tendons between wrist and fingers, the fatigue of small muscles asked to perform the same motion again and again, the drawing of symbols, the pressing of nib to paper. It is not unpleasant, just present, a quiet acknowledgement from the body that it has limits, that it has been working, that it would like, eventually, to stop. The wood beneath your hand feels almost soft now, though you know it is not. It is the contrast, perhaps, after the hardness of the quill, the rigidity of holding. This surface seems yielding, generous, something that asks nothing in return. You spread your fingers wider, feeling the skin stretch, the spaces between them opening, and then let them curl again, not into a fist, not tightly, just into a more natural rest, the shape the hand wants when it is not being asked to do anything. The coolness travels up through your palm, into your wrist, a slow seeping that feels like relief, like the body finding something steady to lean against. The desk has been here all night, will be here tomorrow. It does not move, does not shift, does not ask you to hold it up. The tremor in your tendons softens, still there, but quieter, fading into the general stillness of the room. You can feel your pulse in your fingertips, faint, regular, the small beat that continues whether you notice it or not. The ink on your skin has dried completely, no longer wet, no longer transferring, just marks, just evidence. You press your palm down once more, feeling the full contact, the way the wood holds you, and then you let your hand rest, truly rest, no longer working, no longer gripping, just lying there, palm down, fingers loose, on the scarred oak surface, in the circle of candlelight, as the night deepens, as the work, for now, releases you. From somewhere beyond the orchard a sheep bleats, low and hoarse, carrying across the still fields. You lift your head, listening. The sound fades into the darkness, swallowed by distance. You wait, quill suspended above the page, for a response that does not come. The silence returns, heavier now, aware of itself. You lower the quill again. The nib touches paper. Another line, another curve. The sheep does not call again. Somewhere out there in the pastures your mother's flock sleep standing, their wool thick with summer dust, their breath rising in the cooling air. But that one, restless or dreaming, sent its voice into the night and received nothing back. You know this. You have heard it before, walking home from the far fields as a boy. The isolated calls that meant nothing, signalled nothing, simply were. The scratch of the quill continues. You are not thinking about the sheep. You are thinking about the equation, the way the numbers resist and then yield, the pattern emerging like a shape through fog. But the bleat remains in the room somehow, a presence in the silence. And then, so faint you almost imagine it, a stirring in the leaves, not wind, not quite, just the quietest movement, as if the orchard itself has shifted in sleep. You pause again, listening. The candle flame stands straight, undisturbed. The air through the window is still, but you heard it. The leaves, and then a creak. Wood under weight. One of the branches bearing its load of fruit settling deeper into the angle of the trunk. You picture it in the darkness. The bough heavy with apples, the small adjustment, the redistribution of mass. The creak fades. The leaves are silent. You return to the page. The numbers wait where you left them, patient, indifferent. The night has deepened into its final hours. You feel this without seeing. The quality of the darkness has changed, thicker somehow, more complete. The scattered sounds do not ask to be understood. The sheep, the leaves, the branch. They simply occur in the vastness around you, small articulations of a world that continues without observation. You write another line. The wax pools around the candle's base. A moth brushes past your ear, so close you feel the air move, and is gone. Somewhere, a board in the hallway contracts, releasing the day's heat. Tick. Nothing more. You do not look up. The work continues. The night continues. Separate. Together. Moving toward dawn in their own time. The pages lie where you've left them, scattered across the desk in no order that anyone else would recognize, some covered edge to edge with calculations, the ink dense and small, margins filled with corrections and additions, others bearing only a few lines, a fragment of thought abandoned or completed, you are not certain which. The diagram of the prism sits near your left hand, the spectrum sketched in careful bands, red to violet, the angle of refraction marked in degrees. Beside it, the paper with the tangent slopes, the curves you drew this afternoon or yesterday, time folding in on itself in this room. You lean back, slowly, your spine straightening against the chair's hard rungs. Vertebra by vertebra, finding a different position, your shoulders dropping slightly as the tension you hadn't noticed releases. Your head tips back, eyes closing. The after-image of the candle flame floats in the darkness behind your eyelids, orange and wavering, drifting upward like an ember. You hold this position, breathing. The chair creaks faintly under the shift of weight. Your hands rest on your thighs, palms down, fingers spread. You can feel the pulse in your fingertips, steady and slow. The cool linen of your breeches, the bone beneath. You open your eyes again. The room returns, unchanged. The candle still burning, smaller now, the flame shorter, the papers still scattered, the prism catching a glint of light on one beveled edge, the window still open to the warm dark, the orchard invisible beyond. Nothing has moved. Nothing requires your attention. The work sits there, patient, waiting or not waiting. It makes no difference. No one in Cambridge knows what you've written. No one in London. Your mother asleep below does not know. Barrow, Wickens, the fellows who have scattered to their counties to escape the plague, none of them wait for these pages. None of them have asked. The tangent method, the infinite series, the way light bends and separates, they belong only to this desk, this room, this hour, and to the years ahead, however many come, when you will return to them or not. You feel this without words, a recognition that settles in your chest like a stone sinking through still water. The work will be here in the morning, the ink will be dry, the diagrams will not fade. You can leave them, you can stay. It makes no claim. Your breathing has slowed deeper now. The chair holds you. The floor holds the chair. The house holds the floor. The earth holds the house. You picture the foundations below, the stone and timber, the cellar with its stored apples and grain, the ground beneath sloping down toward the pastures and the sheep, and the dark field stretching away, all of it resting, all of it still. Your eyes move over the papers one more time, seeing them without reading, the shapes of the work, the density of thought made visible in ink and line. And then you look toward the candle, the flame steady, casting its small circle of light. Beyond it, the darkness presses close, patient. The night, in its final hours, waiting for nothing, simply present, as you are present, here, now, in this room where the future is written and unread, where the plague year holds you apart from the world, where the work continues in silence, where the dawn will come, but not yet. The candle flame sways once, though there is no draught, no breath of air from the window, no movement in the room. It bends slightly to the left, elongates, the yellow tip reaching as if pulled by invisible thread, and the light wavers across everything. The papers lose their sharpness for a moment, the ink blurring into shadow. The prism catches the flicker, throwing a brief rainbow ghost across the wall. The wooden desk seems to pulse, the grain dark, then light, then dark again. Your face, your hands, the room itself, all of it uncertain for that single beat, and then the flame steadies, returns to itself, small and golden and perfectly still. The circle of light it casts is perhaps a foot across now, no larger. The candle has burned down to a stub, the wax pooled around the base. Within this circle everything is visible. The corner of a paper, the brass edge of the prism, the curve of your thumb resting on the desk. The wood grain runs in waves beneath the light, each ring and whirl distinct. Beyond the circle, the darkness gathers. Not threatening, simply there. The edges of the room recede into it, the far wall invisible, the corners lost, the ceiling a void above. Only this island of light remains, this small still flame. You watch it, your eyes half-lidded now. The flame does not waver again. It burns straight up, a perfect teardrop of fire, yellow at the core, paler at the edges where it meets the air. The wick, a black thread at its centre. You can see the slight tremor in the heat above it, the air shimmering, but the flame itself, motionless. The window is open still, you sense it more than see it now, a rectangle of lesser darkness in the wall. The warm night pours through it, brings nothing, no wind, no sound. The orchard beyond is invisible. The apple trees you know are there, heavy with fruit, standing in their rows. You cannot see them, cannot hear the leaves. The sheep in the far pastures are silent. The world beyond this room has dissolved into the same dark that fills the corners here. Only the flame, only the light, only the breath moving slowly in and out of your chest. The room holds you, the chair beneath you, solid and hard. The floor beneath the chair, the night around the house, all of it resting in this hour, this final hour before the change. The candle will burn to nothing, the light will go, the darkness will be complete, but not yet, not now. Now there is still this small gold flame, this circle of light on the desk, this breath, this moment, held between the work and the sleep, between the night and the coming dawn, here, still, quiet, the flame steady, the dark patient, the window open to the warm emptiness beyond, and you, watching, drifting, present, as the light holds, as the hour deepens, as everything waits, or doesn't wait, simply is.